Hey, welcome back everybody. So today's video we're actually going to be talking about my LS Swapped BMW E36 convertible. So we're going to go into what I did to build the motor, what all went into the car, and approximately how long it took and all the modifications necessary to make this thing work. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Going into it, I honestly wasn't sure what I wanted to build and what this engine was going to go into, but I knew that I did want to do an LS swap. From everything I was researching, it seemed like the LS platform was the best fit. There's practically no car this engine can't be shoehorned into. I've seen it put into as small as a smart car. So if it can do that, it really didn't matter what I was going to build in the end. This would work. So I ended up picking up a 200,000 mile LM7 out of a 2000 Silverado with an uncut wire harness, all for about 350 bucks. So I was actually pleased. The guy had already pulled it out of the truck for me, and all I had to do is back my truck up, and he loaded it right on the back for me. So I feel like I got a really good deal. I mean, I know I could have probably got it even a little cheaper if I went and pulled it myself, but you know, in the middle of a polar vortex, it was -40 out. This was the best option. I'd never done before, and I really wanted that hands-on experience of doing this, especially since I was going to be building this for the first time. I wanted it to also kind of be reliable enough to possibly even be a daily driver. So going forward with the build, I wasn't positive what the engine was going into, but I did want to make sure that it was going to be reliable. I know a lot of guys will just pull these things from the junkyard. They'll throw a quick gasket kit at it, you know, maybe a couple $100, throw it in a car and just drive it. I kind of wanted a little more than that because it wasn't just about the swap. It was also about, you know, teaching myself and learning and actually developing, you know, skill set here that I didn't previously have. So I wanted to take the opportunity to go ahead and rebuild it and do it the right way. That being said, I did have people around me that do know what they're doing and do know how to do this kind of work, so I had people to rely on and lean on and ask questions to, namely my dad, who's been doing this kind of work for years. However, this was my build, and this is something that I was trying to do by myself as much as possible and try to learn. So I didn't want to just, you know, hand this off to somebody else and say, here, rebuild this. I wanted to learn. So overall, the motor was in pretty good shape. I did want to rebuild it, however, because I wanted a nice, reliable motor once this was all said and done. Once I decided to put this in a vehicle, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be chasing down gremlins and little issues. I wanted to make sure that all the sensors were brand new. I wanted to make sure that all the bearings were taken care of, that everything was refreshed up to a practically 0-mile engine. So the only thing I didn't plan on doing was boring the engine over. That was actually due to partially my fault and partially a bad ream ridge tool that I had ordered. The tool ended up slipping into the cylinder wall and I ended up taking a nice chunk of the cylinder wall with it. So I ended up having to order a set of 30 over pistons for it. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I think it was a better bet in the long run. Now there's fewer original moving parts in this motor that I have to deal with anything going out later on, so I think it'll just be best in the long run. So other than that, new bearings, new rings, all new gasket kit, everything was refreshed from the ground up. The only thing that I ended up making a major change to, however, was the camshaft. So I ended up going with the Summit Racing Pro LS Truck Vortec cam. It's the SUM 8719 cam. Overall got very good reviews. It was a mild cam and it only had a 550 lift, so all I needed was the Z06 springs. So other than that, the only major thing to do was to rework the wire harness to a standalone wire harness, and there's plenty of information out there, especially lt1swap.com. Have all the information you'll ever need on being able to do these. And I actually will be doing another wire harness for this vehicle because there's a few things I wanted to change about it, and I will be recording that and putting that up on the channel as well, so if you guys are looking forward to that. So after that, the only thing that was left to do was get it up on the stand, hook up the harness, and go ahead and fire it up. First fire up, was actually very surprised that it did fire up as quickly and easily as it did. So at this point, other than deleting VATs, nothing else had been changed on there, so there's no cam tuning in here for the mild camshaft. So it did kind of run rough, but this was more about proving that it was going to run. So this was the very first fire up on it. So as you can see, it ran. It didn't stay running, but it ran. So I was pleasantly happy with the fact that I took this motor from being in a field for 5 years, tore it down, never had any experience doing this type of work on a motor before, built it back up, 90% by myself, and started this engine. So I was really happy with it. So other than that, it was just time to find a car to put this in. I scored a really, really good deal on a 99 BMW E36 convertible, almost 100% rust free. This is the Midwest, and that almost never happens. I actually ended up getting this from the guys over at Twisted Tech Garage. I would really recommend checking out their channel. They're doing some really cool stuff with K-Series swapped Corvette. This thing's actually pretty amazing, and it's going to be putting out some tremendous power. So give them a like and a subscribe and check them out. The last piece of the puzzle for this build was the transmission. So I really wanted to go for a 4L80E, mainly because of everything I could read and find on the 60E. It's just essentially a ticking time bomb that if you go anything over stock power, you're going to grenade this transmission. So I ended up finding a nice rear-wheel drive 80E from the junkyard. Actually was really surprised at the teardown on it, that it was really clean and really well maintained, especially for something with a couple 100,000 miles out of the junkyard. So, props to the guy who took care of that one. Other than that, it was just slap the thing together, shoehorn this engine in, and as you can see, there was a little bit of modification to the trans tunnel to get it to fit, and a little bit of modification to the actual transmission. So other than that, it wasn't as hard as you think, and I've heard a lot of people say the 80E will not fit in the E36, but those people are full of it. So if you really want to do that, give it a shot. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Everybody said that the 80E would not fit in this car. The 80E fits in this car. And with the help of my lovely assistant here, we were able to do the first fire up of the engine in the car. So the overall timeline of actually getting the engine to building the car and putting this in there and getting the car to actually drive on its own power was only roughly 8 months. But then to fine tune everything and actually get all the features working on it that I want, I'm still actually working on it to this day, but we're only about a year and a half in from actually when I started working on it now. So other than a few modifications here and there and just trying to make things overall better, it's mostly complete. There are plans here in the next few months that we're going to be tearing this engine down and doing a turbo kit on it. So that's just, more freedom, more fun. So that's actually going to be on the upcoming videos here pretty soon. We've already started purchasing all the parts for it and getting some of the stuff in, and this is actually going to be a budget turbo build. We're actually going to be recording most of this process and putting it up on YouTube for you guys to watch and criticize all my work and let me know how bad I'm doing it, because this is the first time I'm ever doing anything like this. So just like building the car, this is a learning experience. I'm inviting you guys to hang out with us and watch the whole thing and see where we screw up and see how we fix our mistakes. We are not all professionals here. We are mostly hobbyists, just like you guys. We like to take these things and build them up and see what they can do. We want to learn as we go along, and every step of the way I'm going to learn, and I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to correct those mistakes. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys like following along with the upcoming builds that we're doing, and please leave a comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.